All right, thank you everybody for joining us today for our mini grants and refill station grants informational workshop. My name is Clarissa Sanglang, and I am a staff analyst who supports our Safe Clean Water Grants and Partnerships program. We're really excited to share about two of our grant funding opportunities today. We will give tips along the way to help you develop strong applications. In the second half of the presentation, we'll be doing a deeper dive on how to develop a strong scope and budget for your mini grant application. Before we continue, I'd like our grants team to introduce themselves, and I'm just going to go by the order on my screen. So, Robert.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. My name is Robert Marmito. I'm a management analyst on the Grants and Partnerships team at Valley Water. I'll pass it on to Renee.
Hello, everyone. My name is Renee Moreno. I am also a management analyst supporting our Grants and Partnership program and our Public Art program. I'll hand it over to Michael.
Hey, good evening, everyone. My name is Michael Lee, Senior Management Analyst, also with our Grants and Partnerships program, and I will pass it over to Amy.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Amy Fonseca. I'm the Supervising Program Administrator over the Grants and Partnership and Community Benefits Program. And lastly, I'll pass it on to Kristen.
Hi, I'm Kristen Yasukawa. I'm the Civic Engagement Manager, and I work with the team for our Grants and Partnerships program. And I'll hand it off to Diana.
Hi, everybody. I'm Diana Ramirez. I'm a management analyst also in the Grants and Partnerships unit. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. And let's move on. So before we get into the workshop, I do want to announce a volunteer opportunity that we have. National River Cleanup Day is coming up on Saturday, May 18th, and we are currently recruiting for volunteer site coordinators. So that includes individuals, businesses, and organizations, and we would need them to host a creek cleanup site for National River Cleanup Day. We'll provide you the supplies, the access permits, and the waivers for this event. You just need to be there and show up. So last year we had over 40 site coordinators, and there were over 600 volunteers. And together they removed approximately 30,000 pounds of litter from the local waterways. So if you want to contribute to that effort this year, you can visit the website there on the screen, cleanacreek.org. You can also scan the QR code to go to your website, to the website on your device. All right. So now the agenda for tonight. First, we'll start with an overview of our Safe Clean Water program, and then we'll get into the mini grants program and the refill station grants program. So we'll go over eligibility and then the application process, including the requirements, and then we'll get into funding, insurance, and CEQA, and go over some important things. So after all that, we'll have a short break, and then we'll get into the second part of the workshop, which is the scope and budget. And we'll show you some best practices for that. Then we'll do question and answers. These presentation slides will be posted on our website, so you can always refer back to the slides later. And you can also ask questions anytime during the presentation. You don't have to wait till the end. So as Renee said in the beginning, you can use the raise hand feature in Zoom, or you can type your question into the Q&A box at the bottom of your Zoom window. So for those unfamiliar with us, we are the Santa Clara Valley Water District, also known as Valley Water. We're a public agency that is a special district of the state of California, and we're most known as a wholesale drinking water provider for Santa Clara County. But you'll see on the left side of the slide there with the green background, that's actually our mission, which is to provide Silicon Valley with safe, clean water for a healthy life, environment, and economy. And this mission is guided by 3 pillars, and that's clean, reliable water, flood protection, and healthy creeks and ecosystems. Each of our grant funding opportunities are based on these 3 pillars. Okay, so speaking of grant funding opportunities, these are administered by our Grants and Partnerships program under the External Affairs Division at Valley Water. The grant program is funded through a voter-approved special parcel tax called the Safe Clean Water and Natural Flood Protection Program. It's a long name. If you visit some of our grant project sites, you might see a sign that shown in the lower right corner of the slide there. It says your tax dollars at work. So this tax was originally approved by voters in 2012 and then renewed in November 2020. And the renewal allows us, Valley Water, to reinvest around $47 million every 15 years for local projects that deliver safe, clean water, natural flood protection, and environmental stewardship to different communities in Santa Clara County. So let me direct your attention to the image in the upper right. The renewed Safe Clean Water program has different priorities, and all the grants and partnerships funding falls under priority F. You'll see priority F there in that image. Priority F's purpose is to support public health and public safety for our community. And Priority F is further divided into different projects. And the Grants and Partnerships program is Project F9. So there are key performance indicators or KPIs for each of the 4 funding opportunities in F9. And those KPIs aren't on this slide, but you can find them on the Valley Water website. These are public dollars, and our goal is to ensure the public benefits from these public dollars. So as I mentioned, we have 4 funding opportunities available. You'll see that on the left side of the screen. We will be discussing 2 of these funding opportunities during this session today. So as I mentioned, these opportunities are standard grants, mini grants, water bottle refill stations, and partnerships. And the 2 we'll be discussing, the first is mini grants. These are smaller grants of up to $5,000 per project. They're available year-round, and they're intended to give smaller projects a chance for seed funding. And as partners, we can combine our resources to make funds go further and to increase the project's impact. These mini grants are open to a wide breadth of community members and organizations so that different communities can equitably access this resource. And as for the other funding opportunity, it's the water bottle refill station grants, and that provides $5,000 for the purchase and installation of water bottle refill stations. And like the mini grants, this program is also available year-round. I do want to quickly point out our standard grants program. We won't be covering that in this workshop. It's currently going through a redesign, and we expect to launch the redesigned program in fall 2024. And you can learn more about that and about partnerships on our website, valleywater.org/grants.
All right, so this slide just shows an overview of the grant opportunities that Clarissa had mentioned in the previous slide. Some of the information is going to be repetitive, but it's important to really call those out for detail. So for standard grants, there is no minimum or maximum funding amount. We have up to $1.4 million per fiscal year to distribute. And these are consisting of 5-year agreement terms, and the funding is reimbursement based. This funding opportunity is currently going through a redesign, like Clarissa had mentioned, and some of the elements of this program will be updated to align with the feedback we received from grantees and our internal stakeholders. So the next standard grant cycle will be open, as Clarissa mentioned, in the fall, and more information and updates will be shared through our website at valleywater.org/grants and our mailing list. So we'll touch base a little bit on mini grants. So mini grants are up to $5,000 per project and are meant to serve as seed funding, pilot a smaller scale project or program, or be used as secondary funding for a larger project. Valley Water has up to $100,000 each fiscal year available for mini grants, and applications are accepted on a rolling basis or until all funds are expended in the fiscal year. And lastly, refill station grants. They also have a cap of $5,000 per station with a 1-year agreement term date. The funding is 50% upfront and the remainder upon completion of the project. And this opportunity is also available on a rolling basis or until all funds are distributed. So in the following slides, we'll describe the focus of the mini grants and the refill station grants. So for mini grants, just another brief overview. So this program is again designed for seed funding to encourage community engagement in activities that further safe, clean drinking water and water conservation, flood protection, and environmental stewardship in Santa Clara County.
Okay, and as you know, the other grant opportunity we're covering is the Refill Station Grant Program. And this program aims to increase access to drinking water in our communities and to help reduce plastic waste. We aim to prioritize applicants and project locations that work with underserved communities or locations serving school-age children and students in Santa Clara County. This funding opportunity is structured very similarly to the mini grants program, and you'll see that in the next slides.
Before we move forward, we did get a quick question. And that question reads, when does the current fiscal year end? Out of the 100K for mini grants, how much is remaining for the current fiscal year?
I can go ahead and take a stab at that. So the current fiscal year, it starts July 1st. So the current year ends June 30th. Out of the 100K, we still have quite a bit available for mini grants. Off the top of my head, I don't know what the answer is, but it's at least, let's say 50 or 40,000.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amy, for answering that question. Before we get into this slide and applicant eligibility, I just want to point out the table. So you'll see that the mini grants column is represented by a little seedling to represent the seed funding. And the refill station grants column, you'll see it's represented by the cool water drop with the shades. All right, so in this table, you'll see that both mini grants and refill station grant programs accept these types of organizations in Santa Clara County. First on the list are public agencies like cities or towns, and that includes special districts and municipalities. And the second on the list are nonprofit organizations that have 501c3 tax exempt status. We can also accept individuals or orgs without the 501c3 status, but they need to have a demonstrated affiliation with a nonprofit that has a 501c3 status. So that's kind of a special case. If you think that applies to you, you can always reach out to us. You can email grants@valleywater.org and we'll go over the details and help figure it out. All right, so other organizations that would be eligible are schools, whether they'll be public or private, community colleges or universities are eligible. And the next one are for-profit organizations. There is a caveat that the project must be publicly accessible. And last on the list are organized community groups with an established structure. And this group has to have an individual who's responsible for signing the agreements and insurance and the documents associated with the grant.
So to be eligible for the mini grant program, as indicated by the little seed icon on the screen, projects must be located within Santa Clara County and provide one or more of the following benefits: enhance creek and bay ecosystems, improve fish passage and habitat, identify potential water reduction technologies and methods, research new and innovative water conservation technologies, prevent trash and contaminants from entering our waterways and groundwater, expand trail and open space access, increase community awareness and understanding of any of the above benefits, or conduct educational or outreach opportunities related to any of the above benefits. So for your project to be eligible for a refill station grant award, the location of the proposed refill station must be in Santa Clara County and must be installed in a location with public access. So a little bit of for the refill stations, which we'll touch on in the next slide.
Before we move on, there's a question, and the question reads, can a high school student apply for a mini grant, or does it have to be an adult from the school?
That's a really great question. We have had some high school students and high school clubs reach out to us. What I've seen is they've worked with either the school district, the school, or a club to meet the eligibility. So in your case, what I would recommend is that you reach out to us, grants@valleywater.org. But we have worked with high school students in the past, and you know, if you're interested in the opportunity, we'd love to chat with you a little bit about it.
All right, so for refill station grants, the eligibility requirements are a little bit more streamlined. So as stated before, the location of the proposed refill station must be installed in a location with public access, and also priority for locations that serve economically disadvantaged communities and or school-age children and students.
Okay, so we've covered eligibility. Now we'll get into the application requirements. First of all, for those two programs, we accept applications on a rolling basis, meaning it's ongoing or until funds run out. And then the next line on the table there is about our grants management portal called Flux. Flux is a central hub for all of your grant applications and related documentation. We only accept applications through this online grants management portal. We do not accept any hard copy or emailed applications. And you can access Flux directly by going to valleywater.flux.io, and I believe the link is in the chat as well. And if you forget that link, we also have it on our grants webpage. So, and you can email us if you lose the link. So if you'd like, you can actually start today by creating an account for yourself and your organization. And once you have an account, then you can view the online applications and you could see the questions that are on there. We do have a demonstration video on how to create a Flux account linked on our website. And if you have any questions or you encounter any difficulties, you can reach out to us and we'll assist you. Okay, so moving on to the next requirements, you'll see there on your screen, there are a few important documents that we require with your application, both for mini and refill station grants. And these documents ensure that we have all the necessary information and the permissions to move forward in the grants process. So the first you'll see there is a signed IRS W-9 tax form. And this gives us your organization's tax identification number and it verifies your organization's status. The next or the last document listed on this slide is the site permissions from the property owner. So this permission will authorize you or your organization to implement the proposed project on that site. So some common examples of this would be a lease agreement or a property owner consent letter or permits from the relevant authorities. And depending on the document, we may require additional verification to show that the person signing that letter has authority to grant the permissions for the project. This is pretty important. So before you start any project activities, make sure you have the necessary permissions or permits in place. And this ensures compliance with any regulatory requirements and just helps smoothen out the project execution. Okay, we do have more requirements. Another document that we need is a delegation of authority letter. And this letter serves as confirmation that the individual signing the application on behalf of the organization has the authority to sign. So this delegation of authority can look like a board resolution, it can be a meeting minutes, or just the policy of your organization. And these documents just ensure that there's a paper trail of authority to apply for and to carry out the grant. And we'll show you an example of this on the next slide. Okay, so the next requirement is pretty simple. It's just a picture of the proposed location of the project. And the last two requirements, you'll notice there are no water drops, so they only apply to the mini grants program. First is that the grantee must demonstrate a 25% match of the total project cost. We're going to go into this in more detail during the second part of the workshop, so I suggest that you stay on for that. And the last is a timeline with a list of tasks that outline how the grantee plans to complete the project within 2 years. Okay, so here's the example of the delegation of authority documentation. And we received this from a real grantee. So this is a real document. We also have a guide that explains the specific types of documentation we can accept and how you can obtain them from your organization. And if your org doesn't have any existing documentation, then we recommend that you have a resolution signed by the governing entity. And we also have template language for that. So you can find these resources on our website. It's there in green on the screen, valleywater.org/grant-resources.
So this slide is just going to give you an overview of our application step-by-step process. So we're going to go through each step, pretty self-explanatory on the screen, but for step one, check our website to see if any of our grant funding opportunities fit with your organization and your proposed project. We also have a variety of resources available to help you determine what you need and how to obtain them. Step two, go into the Flux portal and register yourself and your organization to access the online application. Step three, make sure to have all the required documents mentioned earlier. For refill stations, make sure you have the photo of the proposed site and floor plan. And for mini grants, make sure to have your scope, budget, and timeline prepared in advance to submit along with your application. Step four, fill out the online application on Flux, upload all the required documents, and hit submit. Grant staff will then review your application and reach out to you for any additional feedback or questions. And as a reminder, grant staff, we're here to work with you on submitting a strong application, work on retrieving all the required documents and facilitating the grant process with you guys. We also encourage you to stick around after this presentation to learn about how you can maximize your mini grant application through the scope and budget.
Before we go on to the next slide, we do have a question regarding the delegation letter. The question is, how would this example of existing delegation work if an individual applies and not a nonprofit?
That's a really good question. And every individual, like if you're talking about like a person taking it upon themselves, or if you're part of a business. So your example probably would warrant a discussion. So what I would do in this case is email grants@valleywater.org, and we can discuss different options you have. But just because you're not a nonprofit doesn't necessarily exclude you from these opportunities.
All right. So the mini grant program offers up to $5,000 in grant funding for each awarded project, as mentioned before, whereas the refill station grant program awards out the full $5,000 for each project. We highly recommend for mini grant projects to request the full $5,000 amount. So each program has an annual funding allocation of $100,000 to support multiple projects and make meaningful impact in our communities. We encourage you to take advantage of these funding opportunities as awards and funding are given out, on first come, first served basis until all the funds have been dispersed. For refill station grants, priority funding will be given to organizations that serve or are located in disadvantaged communities and or cater to students or school-aged children in Santa Clara County. So something to keep in mind for refill station grants. Continued on funding. So regarding funding distribution, we provide 50% of the grant upfront. The remaining funds are released upon project completion, contingent upon the submission and review of the required closeout documents to ensure that all deliverables were met. Mini grant final project closeout documents include a final project fact sheet and a signed payment request form. And for refill station grants, the closeout document includes a photo of the installed station with pre-designed Valley Water signage that grant staff will deliver. So a little bit about insurance coverage. We require that each project must be insured for the entire term of the agreement. All insurance endorsements must receive approval before finalizing the agreement, and this ensures that the necessary coverage is in place and provides necessary protection for both parties involved. Grantees are expected to comply with the insurance requirements and maintain coverage for the following insurance policies, including general liability, auto liability, and workers' compensation as applicable to the project. However, we do understand that different types of projects may require unique insurance needs, and we aim to work collaboratively to adjust or waive insurance requirements as needed on a case-by-case basis. Typically, refill station grants are eligible for an insurance waiver, but that's something that we can discuss with you.
Okay, so Michael just went over funding and insurance coverage. Now I'll go over environmental compliance. Valley Water is required to comply with the California Environmental Quality Act, also known as CEQA. Because we are a public agency, we are required to do CEQA reviews for all projects, including the grants projects. A CEQA review analyzes a project's potential environmental impact, and we do have an internal environmental planning unit that handles this review. So the applicants don't need to do their own CEQA review prior to submitting their application. Our environmental planners will look at the application. They may have questions for the applicants, or they may have a specific requests just to ensure CEQA compliance. And a CEQA review is complete once the environmental planning unit or our environmental planners assign documentation of compliance. So just as a reminder, this CEQA review requirement, only our environmental planners can facilitate that and not the grant staff.
Some important things to note regarding refill station grants. So just keep in mind the terms and conditions will also be listed out in the agreement between the awarded applicant and Valley Water. But some important things that the grantee is responsible for abiding to is all laws and requirements regarding the refill station, such as hiring a licensed contractor to install it. The grantee is also responsible for ongoing maintenance and repairs beyond the agreement. You can find a list of refill station models that is compiled for your convenience on our website. The grantee can also choose whatever refill station style best fits their needs. And you'll have 1 year from the date of agreement execution to install the refill station and submit the required documentation. And again, Valley Water will provide the required signage for you guys to use on your refill station.
We do have a question, and that question is, does Valley Water supply a sign showing the project was made possible with a Valley Water grant, or is the grantee expected to create and design a sign in collaboration with Valley Water?
That's a great question. We do provide the signage, but I'll maybe ask Robert to provide a little bit information about how that all works.
Yeah, so I'm assuming this is specifically for the refill station grant program. If so, we do have specific signage as well as stickers that we do deliver to you once you are done installing your station. It is part of your final project closeout document. So, you know, when you're done with your station, we deliver the signage and stickers to you. You install them, and then you take a photo of your station with the signage on, and that's how we kind of, you know, take in your final project document and then disperse the remaining funds. And yeah, you don't have to create anything. We have the signage developed for you.
Yeah, and just on another note, for the mini grants, though, it really depends on the project. Sometimes grantees will post a sign, in those cases, we would work with them directly to provide our logo and to collaborate to make sure that the logo looks okay. But again, that's kind of dependent on your project, whether it's a physical location or just like a after school activity. So in those cases, in the mini grants, we would work with you to figure out what would work best for your project.
Thank you.
All right, so important thing to note for mini grants, the grantee has 2 years from the date of agreement execution to complete all project tasks. Now, important things to note for both mini grants and refill stations. Since taxpayer dollars fund mini grants and refill stations, it is important that these projects provide public access. We had mentioned that before. Public access means that the project should either be free of charge to any member of the public, or the grantee should have a process in place for public members to waive any associated fees. This ensures that Santa Clara County residents can benefit from the project. We kindly request that you do not begin any project activities or incur any expenditures prior to the agreement effective date. Please note, we are only able to fund such cases. We are only able to fund activities that occur once an agreement has been signed by both parties. There may be special circumstances where a mini grant project may have a retroactive start date. Such cases are reviewed and considered on a case-by-case basis. If you have any questions, please direct all inquiries related to your application and grant project to our grant staff. Grant staff will ensure proper coordination with other internal Valley Water teams, such as our communications team and permitting team. Grant staff will also coordinate with any board of directors if you wish to invite them to any event related to your grant project. So this slide shows you a visual representation of the mini grant program timeline. It can also be found on our mini grants webpage. So once you submit your application on Flux, grant staff will review it and may request a meeting with you to clarify any questions. Simultaneously, we will submit your proposal to our CEQA staff for their environmental review. This step ensures compliance with the California Environmental Quality Act, and this is typically taken care of by our environmental planners in-house. If your application is selected for funding, we'll typically notify you within 4 to 6 weeks after your submission. After the award notification, we will work closely with you to draft the agreement, make revisions to the scope and budget, and finalize the agreement. During this time, we may also request any necessary insurance documentation. Once the agreement is executed, meaning both parties have signed the agreement, you can then begin working on your project. Now, at this stage, we will release 50% of the grant funding, so that's up to $2,500. And then upon project completion, you will submit a final report. Our team will review it, and upon approval of that final report, we'll release the remaining 50% of your funds. We really strive to ensure a smooth process on this, and our goal is to support you throughout the journey of your mini grant project. So please reach out to us if you have any questions during this period.
Okay, so this slide shows the timeline for our refill station grants, and Michael and Robert kind of did touch on it earlier, but now we have a nice visual to solidify it in our minds. So the first step is the application, and as we said earlier, this application is through the Flux portal, and you can submit that along with the required documents through the portal. And the second step is the award or the award phase, and this usually takes around 2 to 4 weeks. This involves the grant staff reviewing the application, and we may contact the applicant to get more information and clarification on parts of the application. So once we've gotten all the information, we then award the grant and move on to the third step, which is execution of the project. This part normally takes 4 to 6 weeks. So staff will draft the agreement and then we'll finalize it with the grantee. So we'll have both sides sign the agreement. And once that's finalized, then the grantee will receive half of the funds. So that's $2,500. And then they have 1 year to complete the project, which is to install the refill station. So the last part of the process is the installation and closeout. So once it's installed, then the grantee will submit a picture of the refill station with the signage that we will deliver to you, as Robert mentioned, and submit a final payment request. So with those two things, we can give you the remaining $2,500. We do have this timeline on our website for your reference, so you can save it and look back at it for a handy summary of the process.
We do have a question in the queue regarding refill stations. The question reads, if the refill station is within a schoolyard, for example, that is not open on weekends, would such a scenario qualify as open to the public access?
Robert, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if your refill station is within a schoolyard and it's not open on the weekends, that still qualifies as public access as long as you kind of explain that in your application that it's still usable by the public on the days it is open. We don't necessarily require that you specify the hours in your application, but in your agreement there will be a provision that says that it must be publicly accessible. So whatever that looks like for you and your school, that works. In the past, we've had some schools install a refill station near their cafeteria or their gym, and the way that it's publicly accessible is that whenever they have school events where they invite members of the community or families, anyone could use it. So public access doesn't necessarily mean it has to be accessible 24/7. It's just as long as there's no like fee associated with using the station, or they don't have to like pay to enter. That should be fine.
Thank you. And we have a second question, more of a general question. Will the recording be shared with us after the meeting is over?
Yeah, so we'll be sending an email out to all the participants, and we'll also be posting it on our website.
All right, so this slide shows a really great example of one of the mini grant projects that we awarded. So this particular project is the Keep Coyote Creek Beautiful Hellier County Park Mural Project, which was awarded in 2021. And it's located along an exterior wall of a public restroom at Hellier County Park in San Jose. For this particular project, the grantee designed and installed a mural that featured nature scenes reflecting a healthy creek to educate people about the valuable natural resources of their local waterways. And also this project also served an additional function of preventing graffiti along bathroom walls and within the site. And as part of their project, they also hosted a community input day at the park and sent surveys to neighbors to gather feedback for the mural design. So overall, a really great project.
And just, sorry to go back to the one, we had a question about the signage. I don't know if you could see it on the mural, but they actually painted it in, but we provided the digital logo so that you could see it kind of way down there. But that's one example. So every signage can be different depending on the project.
Thank you, Amy. So another really good example of a mini grant was with Friends of Master Gardeners of Santa Clara County for their Drink What You Grow Teaching and Demonstration Garden Foundation project. This was also awarded in 2021 for $5,000. And for this particular project, the grantee provided a unique space for the community to learn about sustainable gardening through virtual and on-site education activities. As a result, the grantee held weekly Master Gardener work shifts, including 8 taste events, taste tests of drink recipes utilizing ingredients grown in the garden. And all of this took place at Marshall Cottle Park in San Jose.
Okay, so here on this slide, you'll see examples of the different kinds of refill stations that were installed, and this is different locations in Santa Clara County. You'll see there a high school, a little league field, and a cultural center. So we've worked with schools, nonprofit organizations, even religious organizations to provide them with a refill station. And through that, it provides the community with safe, clean water, and it helps reduce plastic water bottle waste in our communities.
All right. So we strongly encourage you to take the next step and apply for funding through our grant programs. You can begin today by visiting our grants portal on our website and register your organization in the Flex Grant Management System. And in addition, we have valuable resources available on our website to support you in the application process. We really do recommend exploring our mini grant and refill station websites for more information, frequently asked questions, and other resources to guide you through this process. We're also here to assist you as grant staff, so feel free to reach out to our program staff if you have any questions. So yeah, again, you can reach out to us at any of these means of contact. For the quickest response, we do recommend contacting us via email or phone, as our staff regularly checks voicemail and email. Additionally, if you have specific questions or need personalized assistance for your project, feel free to schedule a meeting with us on our website. We're dedicated to helping you and ensuring that your project is successful. And just as a reminder, Valley Water is also seeking volunteers to participate in this year's National River Cleanup Day, which is going to be held on May 18th. And you can learn more on how to get involved and volunteer as a cleanup site coordinator at www.cleanacreek.org. So that concludes our presentation for mini grants and refill stations, and we're going to open it up for questions. Quick reminder that we do have a bonus workshop after this, so if you can all hang around, that'd be great. Yeah, so we'll open up to questions.
All right, thanks, Michael. We have a couple of questions in the queue. The first question is, would it be possible for a prospective grantee to submit 2 applications for different projects in the same year?
Yes, we have had grantees submit 2 or more applications in the same year. Again, our funding is based on the fiscal year. So if the funding is available, which we currently have a lot available until June, and then that cycle will begin again. But yes, as long as it's 2 different projects, you could potentially be awarded 2 mini grants.
All right, next question. If an organization has previously been awarded a water refill station grant, can the organization apply for a mini grant?
Yes, but I'll let Robert chime in on that one.
Yes, if you applied for, or if you've been awarded a refill station grant, you can definitely apply for a mini grant as well. We encourage you to do so. Yeah, they're kind of like really similar, as you could kind of tell with like the reporting requirements and the application requirements. So, once we have some of those documents, it would definitely make the process for applying a mini grant a lot easier as well. So, yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Those are all the questions that we have so far. If there are any other questions, either raise your hand or input your question in the Q&A chat box.
All right, so now we'll be switching gears to provide you with some useful tips and a brief walkthrough on developing your scope and budget. But I think we'll take a 5-minute break first before we dive into the second portion, because we know that it was a long presentation. So yeah, 5-minute break. We will resume at what time? Like 6:23?
Maybe because we advertised it starts at 6:30, we could stick around and answer any questions if you want to ask them, and then maybe start at 6:30, if that's okay with everyone. But we are here. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand or put them in the chat.
Looks like we have a hand raised.
Thank you, Robert. Let me unmute you, Robert Bada. You should be able to unmute now.
Yeah, hi, how's it going, everybody? Robert Parra. Question in regards to the mini grant and the kind of water station grant. I know I've heard about, somebody can apply for both grants. Now, say you get awarded the water station, but the grantee has to maintain that. Could the mini grant be for the maintenance and upkeep of the water station? And hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, so I could take this question. So technically, the work for the refill station grant, which is $5,000, that cost is meant to cover the purchase, installation, as well as the long-term maintenance of the refill station. We've had some grantees who had leftover funds from when they purchased and installed the station. So, there will be leftover funds depending on what model station that you purchase. As far as using a mini grant to supplement that, I'm not too sure on that. We do kind of encourage more like alignment with what our project criteria is for our mini grants, but I'll let Amy, if you have anything else to chime in on that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And just beyond the refill station maintenance, the mini grants are really intended to be for projects. They're project specific. So as far as like maintenance or operations or standard operating of like an existing project, location, program, that wouldn't necessarily qualify for a mini grant. We're looking for a project. So anything special that you're thinking of doing, like kind of a one-time thing, that would be the sort of thing that we fund, not necessarily operations or maintenance.
Awesome, thank you.
All right, we have another question from Robin. I'm going to unmute you, Robin.
Thank you. Robert helped us with a water filling bottle station. And so we had a Flux account. And I'm wondering if the materials that we submitted through that Flux account would still cover a mini grant application.
Yeah, so hey, Robert, it's nice to hear from you
Nice
again.
to see you, Robert. Yeah.
Yeah, so you should still be able to access your Flex account, and I believe you should still be able to see, any previously submitted applications. So all your documents should be there, all the information should be there. If you do plan on applying for a mini grant, you would just go back to the home page of your grants portal, and then click the link where it says, apply for a mini grant, and that will take you to the mini grant application. Now, I'm not sure if it will I don't think it really carries over the documents. So you would have to re-upload the documents that you submitted previously. But, if you need access to those documents again, you could always reach out to us, or you could also check, on the history of the applications that you submitted, which should be on your portal.
Okay, and how do I access that portal again?
Yeah, it's so you could go on our website. We have a link to the Flux portal on there, and I believe it's in the chat, our links there.
Okay.
Also, we have a direct link to Flux in the chat as well.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
And you might let them know that you did a wonderful job of helping us get our water refill station grant. You held our hand all the way through.
Okay,
That's great. Thank you so much for the feedback. Yeah, we're all very nice people. So if you want to reach out, if you have any questions, feel free.
Yeah.
We're here to help.